A bright morning on the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. The flag of the United States flutters in the wind above Fort Sumter, a symbol of the Union's presence in the South. Suddenly, the sound of cannon fire shatters the calm, marking the start of a new and bloody chapter in American history. On April 12, 1861, a single shot rang out, setting the stage for a war that would consume the nation. The battle for Fort Sumter marked the beginning of the American Civil War, a war fought not just over slavery, but over the very idea of the Union. What drove the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter, and how did it turn a divided country into a battleground for the next 4 years? Fort Sumter, located in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina, is one of the last remaining federal military installations in the South. After the secession of Southern states, the Confederate government demands the surrender of federal forts within their territory. Major Robert Anderson, a Union officer, is stationed at Fort Sumter with a small garrison of soldiers. He is faced with a difficult decision: surrender the fort or risk conflict. Despite the growing tension, Major Anderson initially tries to avoid conflict, attempting to negotiate with the Confederacy and asking for supplies to be sent to the fort. Jefferson Davis, president of the Confederacy, and his advisors know that they must take bold action to assert their authority. The Confederate government decides to attack Fort Sumter before Lincoln's inauguration, hoping to spark a quick victory and send a message to the Union. On April 11, 1861, Confederate Brigadier General Pierre G.T. Beauregard demands that Major Anderson surrender Fort Sumter. Anderson refuses. Imagine the fear and uncertainty in the hearts of the Union soldiers at Fort Sumter. Their families are thousands of miles away, and the threat of war looms large. At 4:30 in the morning on April 12, 1861, Confederate batteries open fire on Fort Sumter. The first shots of the Civil War echo across the harbor, marking the beginning of a conflict that will last for 4 years. The Union soldiers at Fort Sumter, though outnumbered, resist as best they can, but they are ill-equipped and quickly begin to run out of ammunition. After 34 hours of bombardment, Major Anderson is forced to surrender. The Confederate flag is raised over Fort Sumter, a symbol of the Confederacy's defiance and determination to protect their way of life. Though there are no fatalities during the battle, the damage to the fort is significant, and the event sends shockwaves across the nation. Though no one dies in the initial attack, 2 Union soldiers later die in a cannon explosion during the fort's evacuation. Abraham Lincoln, newly inaugurated, calls for 75,000 volunteers to suppress the rebellion and restore the Union. The Confederate attack galvanizes the North, uniting people behind the cause of preserving the Union. However, in the South, the attack is celebrated as a victory, further solidifying the Confederacy's resolve. A fictional character, Samuel, a young man from New York, signs up for Lincoln's volunteer army, motivated by the desire to protect the Union and his family's future. As the Confederate flag flies above Fort Sumter, the camera pulls back to show the first wave of Union soldiers preparing to march to war. The shot heard round the world had been fired. The Civil War was no longer avoidable. What began with a single cannonball would lead to 4 years of unimaginable sacrifice, as the nation fought to decide its future. Was the attack on Fort Sumter the inevitable spark that ignited the Civil War, or could the Union and Confederacy have avoided direct conflict?